Man, let me tell you something. Everybody out here acting like claiming Indians is a new fashion trend. Like it's a buffet line and they just walking down, saying, yeah, I'll take 2 engineers from India, maybe 1 doctor, and throw in that tech genius on the side. It's crazy. Every time an Indian does something great, wins a Nobel Prize, launches a rocket, runs a billion-dollar company, suddenly 9 countries stand up like they just discovered a long-lost cousin. You ever notice that? The moment success shows up, everybody want to act like they've been family since day one. See, when India was hustling, grinding, building its way up, nobody was there holding hands. Nobody said, "That's our boy," back then. But now that they're winning, now that Indian folks running Google, Microsoft, and probably half the world's technology, these countries start showing up like that friend who never helped you move, but want to take a picture in your new house. It's like, hold on, where were you when I was dragging furniture by myself? That's how the world works, man. When success comes, people start changing their stories. They start saying, oh, he's technically from our country, or she was born here before moving to India, or her grandma's cousin's neighbor lived in London, so technically she's British. Come on now! Since when did a plane ticket make you belong to a country? You don't get to order nationality like you order takeout. You don't just show up at the table because the meal smells good. And I ain't even mad about people wanting to be associated with greatness. I get it. Indian folks have earned their shine. They've been putting in the work, day and night, while the rest of the world was still hitting the snooze button. But what's funny is how quick people forget the struggle behind the story. They don't see the years of studying, the late nights, the sacrifices, the pressure from every direction. They just see the headline, not the hustle. Let's be real. Identity ain't a buffet. You don't get to pick and choose what fits your taste today. You can appreciate it, you can respect it, but you can't claim it like it's your own. When a country says, that's our Indian, born American CEO, or our British, Indian scientist, they trying to get a piece of the glory without earning a bit of the grind. And Steve Harvey would tell you straight up, that's like showing up at the family reunion, just because you heard there's barbecue. You don't even know Auntie's name, but you standing in line with a plate. The truth is, the success of Indians today belongs to their roots, their culture, their family, their country, to the people who believed in them when nobody else did. Everybody wants to share the credit now, but they weren't there for the climb. It's like trying to join the championship parade when you didn't play a single game. You can cheer, you can clap, but don't pretend you were on the court, because when it comes to identity, you don't claim it, you earn it. And India, they earned every bit of it. You ever notice how success got this magical power to make people start acting like they've been with you the whole time? Man, it's the funniest thing. The moment an Indian person makes it big, becomes a CEO, wins an Oscar, breaks a world record, suddenly the whole world want to say, oh yeah, that's one of ours. Like, hold up, where was that energy before the headlines? Back when they were out there grinding, studying, working 2 jobs, chasing that dream, nobody was shouting their name. But the second that success light turns on, everybody's like, hey, we always knew they'd make it. That's how success works, baby. It don't just bring you blessings, it brings you fake family too. Folks come crawling out the woodwork. Countries, organizations, people who ain't even met you, all trying to get a piece of that glory. You know what it reminds me of? When you hit the lottery, and suddenly cousins you never met start calling. Hey man, remember me? We went to kindergarten together for half a day. That's exactly how these countries act when an Indian breaks through on the global stage. Like, an Indian American wins an award, and suddenly America's like, we raised him. Britain says, he studied here. And India's like, hold up, that's our child. And you got the whole world arguing over who gets to claim the credit. Meanwhile, the real hero just sitting there smiling, probably thinking, I just worked hard, man. Can y'all chill? It's like watching a tug of war over success. Everybody want to pull the rope closer to their side because nobody wants to admit they missed the train when it was leaving the station. But Steve Harvey would tell you, success don't create loyalty. It reveals it. When you're climbing, the real ones are the people pushing you up, not the ones waiting at the top with a camera. See, when Indians were out there hustling, building startups in small apartments, studying till 3 a.m., coding their way through dreams, the world wasn't watching. But the moment that code turned into a billion-dollar business, everybody remembered their connection. That's not love. That's convenience dressed up in a suit. And here's the real kicker. Success makes people forget where credit truly belongs. They think if they can attach their name to your shine, they get to share the spotlight. But that light don't come from them. It comes from your grind, your faith, your family, your roots. That's why Indians across the world keep winning. Because they don't do it for applause, they do it for purpose. So next time somebody tries to claim them, just laugh a little. Because we all know how this goes. When you're struggling, it's you on your own. But when you're shining, it's we did it. Nah, man, you didn't do it. They did. And success don't make you belong to somebody. It just shows the world who you always were. Let me tell you something. Everybody loves to show up when the lights are bright, but where were you when it was dark? That's the real question. See, when Indians were out there grinding, building their lives from scratch, nobody was calling them oars. Nobody was putting their faces on posters or clapping for them on global stages. They were out there studying on borrowed books, working in tiny labs, coding through sleepless nights, chasing dreams that most people couldn't even see. Back then, the world didn't notice. But now that the spotlight's on, suddenly 9 countries want to stand up and say, oh yeah, that's our person. No, you don't get to skip the struggle and show up for the celebration. That's like not showing up to band practice all year and then jumping on stage at the concert with a trumpet in your hand. You don't even know the song, man. You weren't there for the off-key moments, the mistakes, the heartbreaks. You can't just walk in and act like you helped write the melody. That's what's happening with all these nations now. When Indian talent was still climbing that long ladder, no one was holding it steady. But now that they're standing at the top, everybody wants to pose for the picture. And let me tell you, that climb wasn't easy. Indians all around the world have been fighting battles most people can't imagine. They've faced rejection, struggled in foreign lands, started from zero more times than you can count. They worked jobs that didn't pay much, lived in small apartments, sent money back home, and still managed to build empires. You can't just ignore all that and then show up acting like you helped carry the bricks. Because when the foundation was being laid, most of y'all didn't even know. There was a construction site. Steve Harvey would say it plain, you can't claim the blessing if you weren't there for the breaking. That's truth right there. See, loyalty ain't about showing up when it's convenient. It's about being present when it's hard. But the world don't work like that anymore. Everybody want to ride the victory train, but nobody want to help build the track. When Indian scientists were getting laughed at, when Indian startups were being doubted, where were all these countries then? When Indian students were struggling abroad, surviving off instant noodles and part-time jobs, who was there cheering them on? Now that the same students are leading global companies, launching rockets to the moon, and changing the future of technology, suddenly everybody want to claim them. That's like those people who ignore you when you're broke, but suddenly remember your number when you buy a new car. That's not support, that's convenience. The truth is, the world sees India's rise and wants to be part of it, but they miss the most important part, the struggle. The nights of prayer, the sweat, the sacrifice. That's the real story behind every Indian success. So let them claim all they want, because the people who were really there, They don't need to shout. They already know who made it possible. See, here's the thing. You can admire someone's greatness without trying to rewrite where they came from. That's the problem nowadays. The moment an Indian does something extraordinary, the world starts playing a game of rebrand the roots. Folks act like they can just take the origin story, change a few words, and boom, suddenly that person belongs to them. But you can't just slap a new label on someone's identity and call it yours. Respect the roots, man, because without the roots, the tree don't stand. Every Indian who's made it big, whether in business, science, or entertainment, carries something special that you can't copy: the values, the upbringing, the culture. That sense of family, that discipline, that hunger to rise, it's built deep inside. You can't manufacture that in a lab or teach it in a classroom. So when countries start saying, "Oh, she's British Indian," or "He's American Indian," Steve Harvey would look right at them and say, "Nah, man, he's Indian, period." You can borrow the talent, but you can't claim the source. See, the world wants the fruit, but not the soil. They see the shine, the intelligence, the innovation, and they think they can just take credit because that person happens to live or work in their land. But they forget that everything that made that person strong came from home. From those long family dinners where wisdom was passed around like dessert. From those schools where teachers believed in discipline and dreams. From that culture that teaches you to fight with faith instead of fear. That's not something you can adopt overnight. That's a lifetime of being rooted in who you are. And when you mess with someone's roots, you mess with their truth. Steve would probably say, you can't take a mango tree, plant it in another yard, and then say it's yours just because it's growing there. That tree didn't start in your dirt, man. It just happens to be blooming in your yard. The strength, the flavor, the life, it all comes from where it was first planted. That's what identity is about. Now, I get it. We live in a global world. People move, work, build lives across borders. That's beautiful. But respecting where someone comes from isn't about dividing people. It's about honoring what made them who they are. When you give credit where it's due, you build connection through truth, not confusion. So when nations start rebranding Indian success, like they ordered it online, just remember, the tree stands tall because of the soil it grew in. You can celebrate it, water it, admire its fruit. But don't pretend you planted it, because when you respect the roots, you respect the journey. And that's something every Indian understands deep in their heart. You never forget where you came from, no matter how far you go. There's a big difference between being proud of someone and trying to own them. That's where a lot of folks get mixed up. Pride is about admiration. It's standing up and saying, look at them go. Possession is about control. It's saying, they're ours. And that's what's been happening with India lately. Every time an Indian achieves something incredible, you see countries jumping up like, that's one of ours. No, it's not a competition over who gets to claim them. You can celebrate someone without trying to stick your flag on their back. Steve Harvey would probably laugh and say, everybody want to be family when success comes around. But that's the truth. People love to take credit when things are going well. They don't see the hard road that person traveled, the nights of struggle, the sacrifices made behind closed doors. They just see the shine and want a piece of the reflection. But pride without respect turns into arrogance. You can't just wrap your hands around someone's identity and pretend you built it. When you truly respect someone's achievement, you step back and clap. You say, well done, and you mean it. You don't try to twist it into your own story. But the world doesn't always work like that. Nations and people start claiming others like trophies, as if pride gives them ownership. And that's where we lose the beauty of what success really means. It's not about who can stamp their name on it. It's about who can appreciate it without trying to own it. Indians have spread across the world and built lives in every corner of the map. They've become leaders, creators, Scientists, artists, you name it. And they've done it while carrying their heritage, their culture, and their values wherever they go. That's something to be proud of, not possessed by. When you say, look at what India has done, you're not excluding anyone, you're acknowledging the truth. The pride belongs to the person, to the journey, to the people who stood by them. And let's be honest, the world needs more pride like that, not more possession. Because when pride turns into ownership, it kills gratitude. It stops people from seeing the real work behind the glory. It turns admiration into entitlement. Steve Harvey would put it this way: you don't get to call somebody yours just because they made it big. You weren't in the gym shooting with them. You can cheer from the sidelines, you can even feel inspired, but you don't get to claim the sweat. So when 9 countries start trying to wrap their arms around Indian success, just remember, pride lifts people up, possession weighs them down. Let the world be proud of India, sure, but let India stay India. Because the moment you start claiming what's not yours, you stop celebrating what's real. Pride should connect us, not claim us. And when it comes to India, the whole world can cheer. Just don't try to take the trophy home. Everybody's trying to figure out the secret now. Like India's success is some recipe they can copy. You see countries scratching their heads saying, what are they doing over there? How are they growing so fast? How are there people everywhere leading everything? They're trying to study it like it's a science project. But what they don't realize is that India is not following a recipe. India is the chef. You can take notes, you can steal a few ingredients, but you'll never make it taste the same because you don't have the same heart in the kitchen. See, the world is obsessed with results. They want the success, but not the struggle that cooks it. They want the flavor without the fire. But India been cooking in the heat for centuries. That fire of resilience, that patience to stir the pot, even when nothing's happening, that's what made the dish rich. You can't microwave that. You gotta let it simmer through history, through sacrifice, through generations that believed in education, family, and faith long before anyone was watching. That's what makes it real. Now, other countries trying to copy the formula. Let's build like India. Let's innovate like India. Let's think like India. But here's the truth. You can't copy culture. You can't download discipline. You can't import identity. You can learn from it, sure. But the flavor changes when it's not cooked by the same soul. The way Indians hustle, the way they respect opportunity, the way they turn pressure into progress. That's not just strategy, that's spirit. And spirit don't come with instructions. Steve Harvey would tell you straight, everybody want to eat at the table, but nobody want to wash the dishes. That's exactly what's happening. The world's looking at India's success and saying, we want that. But they weren't there when India was scraping by rebuilding, reimagining, pushing through doubt. They see the polished plate now, but not the years of work that went into seasoning it just right. That's the thing about true greatness. You can't copy it because it's built on soul, not just skill. And you know what's funny? India ain't trying to keep the recipe secret. They're sharing their innovation, their talent, their ideas with the world. But no matter how many people take a bite, the original flavor stays with the chef. Because India didn't build success out of luck, it built it out of legacy. A legacy of teachers, dreamers, workers, believers. A legacy that says, we might bend, but we don't break. So while the world's busy trying to replicate what India's cooking, they forget one simple truth. You can't copy authenticity. You can study it, admire it, even be inspired by it, but you can't recreate it. Because India's not serving a dish, India's serving a story. One cooked with struggle, faith, and fire. And that, my friends, is a flavor you just can't fake.